Hey guys, welcome back. Tisha here, back with our final review of Married to Medicine Season 11 Reunion Part 3. My apologies in advance for just now getting this out here, but I have been out of town celebrating the soon arrival of my baby cousin. We were working, putting things together, and I just did not have time to come up here and talk to my second family. But I'm here. I'm late, but I'm here, and we're going to talk about this reunion, right? I am so glad that this season is over. I'll sum up the episode like this before I get into it by saying that I feel like at various times, a lot of the cast members were wrong. I feel like the ladies were okay with bringing T and Greg around for ratings, knowing how bad things had gotten previously with Quad and G. I feel like Dr. Little still holds resentment towards Quad, and Quad still holds resentment towards Dr. Little. I feel like Gregory wanted to rub his joy in Quad's face, and Quad in turn wanted to rub her joy in his face. I do not think that Quad should have ever uttered any words to G this season, and I do feel like a lot would have been avoided had she had done that. And despite my disdain for G, I can say that in my opinion, Quad sometimes still isn't acknowledging that she played a part as well. Now, I don't blame her for trying to ruffle his feathers. Just be honest about it and admit the part that you played. But that's not what happens most of the time. So let's go ahead and get into this. Go ahead and do me a favor and hit the like button. I will not be going over this thing verbatim. It was a lot of the same stuff over and over again. And I'm really tired of being on the Ferris wheel, the merry-go-round, the roller coaster, whatever you feel like this season was for you. So the guys are on stage. Simone is still going crazy in the back, being loud and wrong, like she seems to do year after year when it comes to Quad. Quad is in the back, being loud, calling Simone a dirty bee and trying to figure out the karma that she deserves. Simone gets even more upset when Quad mentions being there for her when they were looking for her father, because in Simone's eyes, it was because of the cameras. Jackie pulls Simone out of the room, says, let's go, as T is trailing behind them. Jackie quickly, as T begins to open up her mouth, kicks T out. It very much so is giving that Jackie does not look at T like she's her equal. Now, I don't blame Jackie for telling her she just needed a moment, because I do feel like she was able to calm Simone down, and I don't know if T being there would have helped, de-escalate the situation. So she's saying that she wants a minute alone with Simone. In the other room, you see that Toya is telling Quad that, she feels like you weren't there, so Simone befriended T. Quad feels like that's dirty, and Toya says it's not. But in my opinion, it is. If I sit on a stage and a man admits to you all that he more than likely cheated on me because he went to back to a hotel room with these ladies, and that he assaulted me because he said that he pulled me down the stairs and whatever else went on with that whole situation, and I decide to take a step back, and because I decide to take a step back, you basically side with him. You don't think that Quad was hurt because she presented herself to be strong, or because Quad had a mouth, or because at times Quad was also combative, but she was. And I don't think that it's right for Simone and others to have sided with G and been there for G, but not for Quad. It's all right if you don't, agree with me. I'm just telling you all my opinion. I think that this is more than Quad not being around, because you're not acknowledging the reason why she wasn't around, which was that she did not feel supported by those ladies. And for whatever reason, a lot of them can't see it. So Simone and Jackie are in the other room. As I said, T has been dismissed. Simone claims that Jackie was only there for her when it came to no Simone is talking to Jackie, and she claims that Quad was only there for her when it came to searching for her father when the cameras are around. Once the cameras were gone, she didn't get a text, a call, or anything. At this point, because of how long ago that was, I don't know how to feel about it, because I can't remember, and I may have to go back. If you all remember, let me know what came of that situation. I get that Simone is hurt about that, but you're not talking about that when you talk about why you're upset with Quad. Your reasoning for being upset with Quad continues to be that because Quad is kind of being secretive. You even say it later on the couch. I get that Quad only comes around, in Simone's opinion, when the cameras are out there. But my question is, Simone, do you come around Quad when the cameras aren't there? Do you come around Toya when the cameras aren't there? Because you say at the end of the episode that you can't wait to come to Toya's house. So what's that whole dynamic like? So let's get to the whole situation. So we're on the stage again with the guys, and they're still talking about this whole thing with Quad. King feels like Quad wasn't disrespectful, that she didn't tell G to shut his mouth, that she didn't tell him to shut the F up, while Dr. Little feels like Quad was wrong, that she disrespected his marriage. He did not like the comments that were made about them having a baby. He said that Quad tried to crap on his marriage. I do not feel like Quad tried to crap on his marriage. She may have tried to crap on him. I don't think she tried to crap on his marriage. I don't agree with that part. However, I can understand why he would have a problem with Quad making comments about his relationship, the same way that Quad would have a problem if G made comments about hers. I do not understand why in this moment when the men are on stage and they're talking, that King doesn't see why there would be a problem there. We don't have to agree with his delivery, because I don't agree with Greg's delivery. But I can also say that even though I don't agree with Greg's delivery, I can see that he would get upset by the things that Quad was saying. Once again, I said it before in previous episodes, those two don't need to speak to one another. So Andy says that the viewers want to know, why, Greg, you felt the need to tell King that you told Quad she talks too effing much. I'll answer that for Dr. Little. He wanted to get under King's skin, and he succeeded. He wanted a reaction out of King. Now, he'll say that's not what it was, but I believe that's what it was. He admits that it was stupid. He also says that part of the reason why he probably acted that way because he too was drinking. Andy is trying to figure out what happened at the beach. Steve says, I've been on many teams and I've seen things happen, but I've never seen 3 fights break out at the same time in the same place. I personally have, but it wasn't with adults. It was with teenagers. And it just goes to show you how immature everyone was acting. On top of that, we find out that all of this happened within 22 minutes of them being at the sandbar. They were there for 22 minutes and all this stuff was going on. You are on this island for 22 minutes and that unfolded? It's crazy. Andy brings up Dr. G's comments about how, this was going to be a fight to the death. To me, they should have spent more time addressing the clip. of how disrespectful he was to T. They talked about it a few times, but they did not dig in like I think they should have. And as I saw it, I said, of course they're not going to, because Bravo wants to skim over this, because no matter what's going on, they still want T and G, I believe, on the show. You all tell me your thoughts. Andy's Messy Tail wants to know, if the fight did happen, who might win? And Dr. Little's like, look, I know that, King is bigger than me and that he's younger than me. But if I tagged in, T, I think, we could take him. The men laugh about it, including King. I personally feel like don't laugh about it and say you want to tag her in now, especially because you had so much to say before about her trying to step into the situation. Dr. Little admits that he shouldn't have talked to his wife like that and he owes her an apology. Now, later on, he says he already apologized to her, but he's going to do it again publicly, with Andy's suggestion. So King points out that, it's the type of aggression that he uses when it comes to women, that this is a place of familiarity for him. Like, that's what he does. I think that King is right. But the problem is that it's coming from the wrong person. The problem is that a lot of these men seem to not check King. Let me not say King because it wasn't King. They seem to not check Greg when he says certain things. They don't hold him accountable. It's not a thing where I see Cecil pulling him to the side and be like, man, you shouldn't have said that, especially since Simone says that they're friends. I would think that that's a conversation that we get to see on camera or that they would have, but it doesn't seem like it's happened. And it could happen off camera. I just haven't seen them address or say, we had conversations with him off camera. Andy brings up the possible charges. King lets it be known that when he heard that, he found himself laughing because he didn't do anything. He said, I called the police station and they let me know that they basically told him to stop wasting his time. In other words, like, King, you don't got nothing to worry about. We're not even really trying to pursue that. We told the man, don't waste his time by doing this. While Dr. Little claims that, he dropped the charges, that he stopped pressing the charges. Which one is it? Did you drop them or did you not press them? Because you're acting like you did a favor by doing that for him. He says, I stood up to King when he was trying to bully me. What? Bully you? Huh? He's asked if they can move forward. G says he doesn't think so because King came into the picture with a very tarnished opinion of him. King says, I came into this with no preconceived notions. I don't necessarily believe that. I think that King had an opinion, but King was just waiting to see what he would do. And I could be wrong, but that's what I think. He said, but once I heard how you were talking to her, I had to let you know that you can't do that anymore. You might have done that in the past, but it's not going down while I'm around. I do respect him. It's saying like, look, what you did before can't happen now. Dr. Little says he can't be around someone that is, I can't remember if he said that it's a way he said it, like he can't be around King because King associates with someone who's trying to destroy his character, which he's saying that Quad is. My question is, if you really and truly felt that way, then why did you come back on the show? The show where you knew that Quad was on, where Quad was at, where Quad would be around. See, this is the thing that bothers me, right? Because people do not like Quad. Because they don't like her, they cannot see this a lot of times for what it is. But I cannot like someone and still see things, in my opinion, for what it is. That's why I can say that King was wrong in the way that he approached Dr. Little. That's why I can say, like, King, why did you do it that way? Why did you wait until after the fact to say something? The moment that he said something to you, you should have addressed him then instead of waiting until the ladies had conflict. Even though Greg irks me. That's why I can say that Quad running her mouth was wrong. That's why I can say that Quad should have never addressed him in the first place. That's why I can say Quad should have never said what she said about, planning their baby shower, because it was inappropriate. Curtis wants to know if G is willing to apologize to Quad. And he isn't. He wants an apology from Quad. King feels like she wasn't going back and forth with him, that she was going back and forth with T. So there's no apology owed. I personally feel like she was going back and forth with the both of them. It may have started with one person, but it escalated at some point to the both of them. And you shouldn't have been no back and forth. Here's the thing. I get that she felt like T was out of line for saying what she said and blah, 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 because T said that he wanted to leave me. What does it matter, Quad? You left him. You divorced him. You filed. You know that. So proving it to anybody else, it doesn't matter. These two still have a lot of issues there, a lot of things that are unresolved, and they just don't need to be around each other. So Eugene says at some point, as a man, you got to take the higher ground. He says, it's not in his character, Dr. G says, to say that, things like Quad has a big effing mouth, but it needed to be said. And the guys are like, oh my goodness. Eugene, in my opinion, a lot of times tries to show Gregory grace and tries to kind of help him out. Talking about how, if he were Dr. Little, he would have had a hard time, being on the show, being around Quad. So he kind of gets that. And Greg is saying that he didn't have a hard time. And Eugene is like, yeah, you did. So are some of the other guys. As I'm listening to this, I wrote in my notes, I'm so over this crap. There will be no resolve. Leave T there and take G off. I feel like T, even though she gets on my nerves and sometimes she sounds crazy because it's clear that she's going off of what her husband says versus the reality of the situation, I feel like I can handle T being on the show. I feel like the problem is when G and T are entered into the picture, but I do not think that it's completely T's fault that she is in this situation. Now, T, I don't know what the ladies promised you as far as coming up here, but I think that you were used more than you realize. So we come back from commercial break, and the women and the men are now on stage together. We hear Cecil say, 11 years and y'all still don't know how to act. I hope you bring some of that energy towards your wife later on, because she definitely did too much. I'm not saying that Quad didn't say some stuff too. Because that dirty B, when Quad said that last week, oh, I felt every bit of it. But Simone, it just didn't seem warranted for Simone to get that upset in that situation, because Curtis was kind of defending Quad. So Andy brings up what happened backstage. Quad wants to know. She's like, Simone, what is my karma? Because maybe I read that statement wrong. I'm not always right. So what is my karma? Dr. Simone talks about, being tired of hearing that, they ushered in T and G because Quad did things, that she kept her life secret, that she didn't trust them, that she wasn't sharing her business. Once again, that's why you're acting this way, because she's not sharing her business like you're sharing every little part of yours. She's like, Simone says, what else were we supposed to do other than move on without you? You move on to one of the many other doctors that we've seen make appearances on this show. You don't bring back the alleged abuser. You don't bring back the man that pulled her downstairs by her hair. You don't bring back the man that she did things to and that he did things to her. It just doesn't make sense to me. So Quad says, you did it to get back at me. I agree. That's exactly what she did. And that's basically what you alluded to in the back by saying, you gave us your ass to kiss, so we brought him back. Simone denies it and says Cecil and Greg have always been friends, Quad. Okay, so I need to side aisle Cecil too? Because what do you mean they've always been friends? Quad then starts fighting for her friendship with Simone yet again, saying, I don't know where I went wrong with Simone. I asked her to tell me all that I did wrong over the past 10 years, and I will apologize for it. She then admits, Quad does, to still holding on to things that she needs to let go of when it comes to Simone, like what was done last year. And Simone says, I'm done. Quad, I need you to stop. Don't Don't worry about Simone. She's your coworker. Leave it at that. So Heavenly then tells, Contessa, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, sis, we got to get this thing together, we got to turn this around. I don't want this to be a thing where our friends feel like they're in the middle, because that thing with Simone and Quad in the back was intense, and I didn't even know who to go check on, because I didn't want to get in the middle of it. I was just there, and you could tell that Heavenly was a little out of it, because I didn't see her surrounding Quad, and I didn't see her go follow Jackie and Simone. So that I get that. So Contessa says, I would love it, but we know that didn't happen, because Contessa and Heavenly are still going at each other on the internet, with Heavenly zooming in on her teeth, and with Contessa talking about how her botched titties, that's not something you should say, and all those other things. So they're still going back and forth. Andy points out, for the first time in years, Quad has a man. He noticed that King has yet to put a ring on Quad's finger, and Queen King's like, there's no pressure, or rush, but it's coming soon. He knows she's a size 6, and the cameraman is dirty, because when he says there's no rush, but it's coming soon, the look on Dr. Little's face is that he's bothered, but it could have just been editing, and it could have been a look that he gave for something completely different. Next, we talk about the couples trip again. We get flashbacks of the trips, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Quad is asked if she would address Greg the way that she did if she wasn't boozed up. Quad doesn't feel like she was trashing him, but I want Quad to realize she was. You called him a narcissist and all those other things. Even if it's true, that is considered to be a negative comment. Greg admits that he was angry that night about things outside of the situation, and that, he normally wouldn't respond like that, so he'll apologize for that. I'm guessing by those things he was talking about him allegedly being fired from his job. At least that's what Tisha said later on in interviews. Quad accepts it, but she doesn't offer apology herself. She makes it clear that it's not her job to coddle or worry about Greg's feelings. I do agree with that. I do agree that she shouldn't have to worry about the way that her ex feels. She says when she speaks highly about her man, it's not to get under his skin. T says, just don't mention my husband. How about neither one of y'all mention anything about one another? Period. If Greg and Quad would just stick to their significant others and not on each other, this could be a lot smoother. I still don't feel like Greg should be there, though. Greg feels like Quad was trying to cast a negative light on him by saying that she left. Not the narcissist stuff now. Did y'all pick that up? Did I miss it? He was more concerned about the fact that she said that she left rather than the fact that she called him a narcissist, right? What am I writing here? She says, no, I said that I left after your wife tried to make it sound like you wanted to leave me. If she didn't say that, I wouldn't have said a thing. I like to believe that, but I'm not sure, because Quad was doing a lot. The subject of Damon agreeing with King comes up. Damon still feels that way. Dr. G says he was insulted. King says she did not insult you. G says I felt that way. Quad points out that anything that she says he's going to take a certain way. That is true. He brings up the baby shower comment, and she claims that it was just to show support of them. I don't know if I really feel that way. I feel like this would have been the perfect time for Quad to be like, look, I apologize. I was only, saying that to show that I was in support of you. I mean no disrespect to it. So I apologize for that comment. That alone would have shut a lot of stuff down. But Quad didn't apologize for anything. So Quad really doesn't feel like she did anything wrong. And I do feel like Quad shouldn't have addressed him. Dr. G brings up her saying that she left him, that he really has a problem with her saying this because I'm saying he really has a problem with her saying it because he just said that moments ago. He says that when she left, he gave her everything in the divorce. Now, what he means by everything is that he didn't come after her money, because he says he could have came after her money. Quad says, I helped you build your practice. What do you mean you gave me everything in the divorce? I have my own money. We did see her help. He, of course, won't admit that. But I think that this just shows yet again that Quad was making more money than him. And that too became something that he had a problem with. Now Tisha better be careful, because I know she's not getting paid what these other ladies are getting paid, but at some point she's going to be making more money than him, and he seems to be somebody who struggles with it. Toya wants to know, she asks the guys, if a man comes at your woman sideways, is there like an unspoken rule that you stand up and speak for your woman? They all say yes, but Cecil adds that he believes in that, but he also believes that his wife can't just walk around saying whatever she wants to different people. I do agree that a man should stand up for his woman. I also agree that there are instances where a woman needs to be quiet and allow her man to handle it. I think that because these people are friends or have knowledge of each other, that they think it's okay to just say anything, and it's not okay. You can't sit there and run your mouth and then be upset with the reaction. So I got what Cecil was saying in that moment. Dr. Heavenly doesn't agree. She's like, if I say something to you and you tell me to shut the F up, Dr. Damon won't hear what I said. He's only going to hear what you said. Cecil says that he can understand that. He points out, though, that sometimes what you may feel is not a dig might be a dig to the other person, which is true. That's when Toya says, he started it. Like, Greg started it by saying that he doesn't care what you think. I just feel like in order for him to say I don't care what you think, is because she was going on her whole monologue about them and what she feels about them, and it's just not needed. Even through this episode, there were times where I noticed King was saying a lot of different things in regards to the way Sweet Tea was being treated by Greg, or something that Greg was doing, and there's just no need. Like, cut your interactions. So T feels like there's a double standard. Toya says T is used to that type of conversation with her man. They're not. The hot mic moment comes up. Once again, they don't spend time to really address it, because I know that a lot of people felt a way about it based on the little bit of comments that I saw on Instagram. Eugene comes to his defense yet again, saying that they've all had moments that the mics might have picked up that they wouldn't want to. Heavenly says that, Damon hasn't talked to her like that, and production tries to show a clip. But to me, that wasn't the same thing. That wasn't the same type of energy. They could have used a different clip of Damon other than that, because what we saw with T and G was literally them having a moment where he was being very demeaning to her. A husband, in my opinion, kind of checking his wife a little bit, like, you need to chill out, you're wrong, versus you're naive and that's your age, and this, and no you wouldn't, and I don't know what you think and who you think you are, and blah blah blah, and what you need to do is you need to stop pissing me off. Like, the way he was talking to her was wrong, but production once again is going to try to make it seem like it's not as bad. So you're going to pull the thing in there, a Damon and Heavenly, but nobody else. And I don't know if it's because Heavenly said she wasn't spoken to like that, but there was clear to me that there was a little bit of verbal abuse in the way that he was speaking to T versus the way Damon was speaking to Heavenly. But you all tell me what you think. So Dr. Little gives an apology. T stands by her man. King says that wasn't just a disagreement. That's not normal behavior. G says, they're still learning each other. T says it's their normal behavior and it's not for King to comment on. I do agree. It's not for King to comment on. Wrong person to speak on them yet again. Contessa says, haven't we all had moments? And Toya says, yes, but some of us have seen our moments, like myself and Eugene, and we've corrected them. Our concern is, what would you say, Dr. Mimi? They need to do the work. This is when T says they are in counseling. The question is asked if they can coexist. T says yes. Quad goes through this whole long thing to basically say that given everything that's transpired, she's not sure. I think that's fair enough. G then performs his song. He takes off his stuff. He has his getting to the money t-shirt on. A backwards hat that says I'm free. Here's the thing, T. if you're going to have shirts that say get into the money with your face and a cowboy hat and whatever else, I would like for them to look more professional, because you can really do something with that, because she does have a lot of people that like her and that subscribe to her and things of that nature. So do something a little bit better that looks like you put more thought into it. I laughed at his performance because it was so cringy, and because the cast were like, oh my God, I cannot believe he's doing this. And T was really dancing in her chair like this was a good moment. We come back from commercial break. The energy is better. It's a lot lighter of a segment. Mimi is working with Heavenly on the way that she cuts with her words. She says, she's asked about, because Andy gets the viewers' questions, and she's asked Contessa. Heavenly's asked how Contessa attire, how she feels about her attire, and Heavenly's like, oh, Mimi, help me. And she says, she's trying to get to a better place with Contessa, Andy, and she don't want to say anything. She still stands by the fact that Simone's crap is ugly, though. Toya says Jackie isn't boring, she's just fun. And he plays a game of all the things that the lady said. You have to guess who said what shady comment, and everything is something that Heavenly says. He then says that he loves their shade. All the ladies go around and they're supposed to say something nice about each other. So Heavenly says something nice about Contessa. Contessa says something nice about her. T and Quad say something nice about each other, so on and so forth. Mimi's excited to move forward with everyone. Toya's ready to party. She even tells Jackie come party afterwards. Jackie says okay. Simone chuckles and like, Jackie, you know we gonna be in bed. Simone is asked to lead them in a toast. She tells Andy, thank you for yelling back at us for all these years. She tells Jackie, I will always love you and nothing will come in between us again. She tells Quad, I underestimated the year you had and what part I played in that, and for that I'm sorry. I think she's talking about the situation with Quad's niece. I don't necessarily think she's talking about some of the other things that have been done. Heavenly, she tells her to continue to be shady because it makes me laugh. You're a crazy bee. Continue to be exactly the way you are. Do you really mean that? Do you really want her to be exactly how she is? I'm just wondering. Mimi, welcome on a wild ride. Toya, I can't wait to see the new house. Get spoiled with wine and Eugene's cooking. T, this was weird, because you were all in T's face. You were supporting T, everything else. But she says, T, I hope you find it in your heart to know that through all our BS, we care and love each other. Not I care and love you or whatever. This is supposed to be about T, since you decided to go around the room. And that's about all you had to say for her. Interesting. Contessa B, she says, welcome back. And they cheers. I feel like they could have did without this last part. I feel like they spent majority of the time talking about this whole fight with, King and G and Quad and G, and it fell flat because we spoke about it enough already for half of the season. Like, you literally spent the last part of the season talking about this. Overall, let me know, especially for those of you who've watched the entire season, or even if you've watched the reviews, how do we feel about this season? Is there a person on the cast that stood out for you? Like, whose team are you on? Are you team Jackie, Quad, Heavenly, Simone, Toy? Tell me who your faves are. For me, my fave this season is going to be Toya. Just because Toya says a lot of things that we want to say, and I love that. And I'm surprised I'm saying Toya, but yeah, Toya's my favorite this season. I feel like I like Quad. If you've been here before, you know that I like her. But Quad has a lot of stuff that I wish she kind of owned that she didn't. So I can't pick her. So Toya it is. You guys tell me what you thought. Thank you guys so much. I will still be here doing my Real Housewife of Atlanta reviews, got my book reviews, my crime stuff. I'm going to resume Big Love next week because I didn't have any time to watch it while I was, on vacay with the fam. My hope is to have, what's that show? Real Housewives of Atlanta up sometime tomorrow because I have not watched it as of yet. Or I shouldn't say tomorrow, that would be today, hopefully. Sometime Tuesday, I hope to have it up. Thank you guys so much for rocking with me. Until next time, peace.